Safri, when you get you could zoom in. You know, when people start to speak, you could get like
Yeah,
a
I
large
know.
screen for some.
Yeah, yeah. I got you coming. I do that all the time though. All right, we are live. I'm seeing the
Good, good.
pop-up saying the brief is live. Live
All
and
right.
live direct. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the DeBrief TV show. I want to say it's a pleasure to have each and every one of you here. And it's always a pleasure actually to be here with you guys. Um, the team, we love being here with you. We love everything about this show. We love everything about you being on this show as well. But obviously, as always, we're gonna beg you for your indulgence while we take time out to share the link um, with our team and with our guests, so that we can have these the persons that are waiting to be a part of the show join in. Kima, you went on Facebook and pulled the link, or you need me to send it to you? Just let me
I
send.
am going to I am going to do it right now. Just
Okay.
give me 1 second.
All right, guys. Bear with us. All those who are joining with us at this moment, we ask that you would take the time out to share the link. Follow us. If you haven't followed us before, follow us now. And let me just go there and share it with my guys on the chat, and so that everybody will be able to just join in. And we do have an exciting um, panel lineup today. We have an exciting show to give you tonight as well. Tonight. And I just want to share the link. I'm just going to pull the link. So if you can indulge me us 1 second. This multitasking thing. Um, again, old for this, yeah. All right. New feed. Tell me when you post it in the chat, send it to Doc as well, so that she can share it with whom she wants to. Um, so again, good night to everybody joining in. I said we are just begging you to give us a few seconds while we share the link. Um, Obviously, technology now allows us to be able to just share everything. You got share. I don't think it's gone ideas where you just jump on TV and everybody waiting for you. You gotta be sharing out for everybody. So just bear with us, and we will start uno momento. I just want to share with a few people here, and then we're gonna start. All the guests that want to share it as well. Let me see if I can get it shared this way. All right, let's let me go on my page and see if I can share it that way. All right, again, good night to everyone that's joining. We are just taking a couple of seconds just to share the link. If you're here, if there's any technical difficulties with hearing us or anything like that, please advise so that we can make that adjustment to suit. But we want to say a special good night to one and all of our favorite people that makes this show possible every single week. We have people joining us, and we want to say we appreciate you. We appreciate the support. We appreciate the love, um, and everything as such. So, Kimara, tell me when you're ready to come back in there, and we're gonna jump into it. Um,
Yeah, I am here
you're
at
back.
the moment.
Yeah, you're back, and you're blocking Elmo too.
Yeah.
All right.
Love
Elmo's
that more, man.
present, no?
Uh, more la about here. All right. Good night, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the DeBrief TV show. We're happy to be here. Happy to be bringing the show to you live and direct every single week to discuss issues, or as we like to say, debrief issues that are within our society, our everyday society, and bring things to that place where we all could understand it. I find that too much times we use the language or the rhetoric that many don't understand, and debrief is all about bringing the show to that level where each and every one of us can understand what is going on in a better way, in a more understandable way, and that is why we are here to serve you. We're here to bring you hot topics. We're here to bring you sensible topics. We're here to hear from you what you have to say, what you want to say, We encourage you to join us by commenting, by sharing the link, by following this TV show. And we are going to get hotter and hotter each week by bringing you the subject at hand. We are getting closer to a number of things. So just know we shall have some serious debate, along the things that people like.
I wonder what's that, Mr. Safri?
I ain't saying anything. But I mean, people always enjoy all of our conversation, and I think last week people really showed that we bring some really meaningful discussion and some people that they really could enjoy seeing. And I thank you that we were able to do that last week, and we thank you for all the support. But we know we have a very exciting show this evening. We have a very exciting guest this evening, all the way from the UK. And thank God for Zoom and things like these, because I don't think I could afford to fly your in. But I think it would have been nice to come into Barbados, for sand, sun, and sea. Yeah, but we're gonna have a good discussion around a number of things, and we are gonna have the topic today is civics, republicanism, and leadership in essence, but we're gonna narrow it down at this point. And we want to welcome Dr. Lisa Ann Chung from Kenley College, and she will give you an idea what Kenley College is so that you can, see where you can get involved. And then also want to say good night to co-host Simon Arlene, Kemar Stewart, and obviously, and obviously we don't have Jermaine with us tonight, and we don't have the money, but they're tuning in wherever they are. So Dr. Chung, welcome to the DeBrief TV show. Thank you for being here. Happy Easter, everything you want, and I hope that your family are safe. But the floor is over to you.
I do want to thank you all for inviting me to be a part of this show. I am so excited to see young leaders who are taking the charge. We are often seeing younger people sitting back and waiting for somebody else to lead, but you are all clearly just doing what needs to be done and probably addressing the issues that the seasoned politicians should have been addressing. Because I think we wouldn't be here tonight if there was some understanding of these topics. And one of the things that we often forget is that politicians are supposed to be, and we like to say this term with Ken Leak to call them principled politicians. They should actually be educating the nation. They should be telling people what is there for them to know about what's happening. They need to be bringing people, as we would say, into the light, and light is about knowledge. And if we keep people in darkness and they don't know how to make informed decisions, then how can they truly be an engaged electorate? So just a little brief about Kenley College. We work with 18 to 35-year-olds who are going into politics or already in politics, and it's essentially we provide leadership training and strategy for young politicians. As before we started the show, we were talking about the importance of leadership briefly. And the reality is most politicians don't know much about leadership. They know about leadership roles, they know about leadership titles, but they don't really know about the heart of leadership. And I'm trying to remember, was it Simon talking about the serving? It is so important that you don't miss serve. Sometimes when we put posts out, we put serve in capital SERV because you are there to serve. And you're going to be serving one way or the other. You're there to serve yourself, or you're there to serve the people. Now, the people want you to serve them. So we got to be serving the people. We got to be serving a just cause. How many people have a just cause as opposed to just being, they just thought politics was good. They had some ideas about something, but they had no just cause that they got involved with. So I'm hoping that even with what we're going to be talking about tonight, some of that stuff will come up more, and maybe some of the people in the audience will address some of those issues. But yeah, so back to what we were doing. Kenley is leadership training and strategy for young politicians. We do that through some of our accredited short courses, coaching services, and consultancy services. So that's it in a nutshell. We're a non-traditional college. We're not in the regular way. We wanted to be real school for people, and that's part of that comes from my own background. So I'm one of those people who got in politics young. I was doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I started out in college. Let's see, Barbados does I'm originally from the Bahamas. Barbados does community college, I think like us, where it's you start off with the associates and then you go on. Is
That's
that the
right.
same way? Yeah.
That's right.
So when I was in community college, then well, what you would call your equivalent, I was doing college elections, coordinating college elections, but I've got politics in my blood. So my grandfather was a cabinet minister. His brother was one of the first black men to be elected to parliament in the Bahamas, and they were called the Magnificent Six. My grandmother was behind the scenes and not really front line, but her house was the house where these young politicians would join in. So I think that in some way, what we're doing with Kenley is kind of continuing because we believe politics is in people's blood. You check your blood, you'll probably see some political advocates, some political people involved in politics are going to be there. So don't be surprised. It's probably in your blood, and that's why you're getting involved with it. Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. We appreciate the introduction. And again, on the topic of civic republicanism and leadership, as I said, we're speaking with Dr. Lisa Ann Chung. And Kimar, this is your guest. So I know that this would be a topic that you were eagerly awaiting. I'll let you lead off this discussion with Dr. Chung and allow our audience, as I said, follow us, like us, and get involved in the conversation. Go from there, sir. It's your floor.
Yes, good night to everybody. Thank you, Lisa, for coming on the show. Good night to the viewers. We promise to have a very good discussion tonight. So civics, republicanism, and leadership. As you know, Barbados is on its way to becoming a republic, and we as young people need to understand our civic duty in terms of our move to republic, and we being myself and Simon and Kimar, other younger people involved in politics, we need to understand the role that we have to play in that transition, be it education, be it being involved in parliament, be it maybe just having a Zoom like this to educate persons on what they should expect. The role that I wish to play in such a big event like that. First, we need to understand the importance of what is a republic. As we know, Barbados is an independent country. We actually broke away from England or Britain, if you want to call it that, and we are now completely severing our ties to the Queen and our colonial past. I definitely think that is the way to go. We made steps to go that direction, not within this last government we had, but the one before that, when the former late Prime Minister would have had plans to take Barbados into a republic. And then the last administration said they agreed with the move to go to a republic, and now the Prime Minister is actually facilitating it. So if we understand our colonial past, I think severing ties with the Queen, especially in a day and age where we are very conscious, very race conscious, and very socially conscious in a predominantly black country like Barbados and a predominantly black region like the Caribbean, I think that Barbados is going to start a wave for other countries as well to sever those colonial ties and try to chart their own direction and create a new future for themselves. So, as I say, persons like me and Simon and Kimar, we need to play a role and enlighten that path for other young people and understanding the issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, Simon, you want to jump in there?
Right. I just want to follow up with what Kimar was saying with regards to the direction that we're taking Barbados, because we understand that an important part of being an independent nation is having a clear national identity. And I am of the opinion that moving towards a republic would assist a lot with Barbados understanding its national identity. I know we have 10 national heroes, and I know that we are very conscious about our culture and so on. But I do believe when we are able to say, well, look, this is the form of a republic that we want, where we either we have a presidential, and I guess Dr. Chung will go into that, whether we have one where we have a titular head or we actually have a president that is actually working and doing stuff. It all depends on the model that would best suit Barbados. But what is clear is that Barbadians have become very nationalistic, and they want to know that whatever form of government or system of government we have clearly represents them and their interests, and of course for the future of Barbados with regards to our national identity. And even as we look across the region, when we look at the larger territories such as Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana to some degree, being a part of CARICOM, we recognize that although they're larger countries, a lot of people think that why would you want to become a republic because you're a small island? For me, it has a lot to do with national identity and understanding who we are as a people. And you had mentioned earlier, Kimar, about severing ties with England. And to some degree, yes, in terms of not having the Queen as the head of state, we are severing ties, but at the same time too, we are opening broader opportunities, not only with England, but across all the European nations and further across the world. But having our own identity, this is a real good opportunity now. We're having a republic to rebrand and also to retell our story, because most of the time, our history is painted from the perspective of the colonizer. And that's important, but I think that as we become a republic, it is important that our stories are also told.
So you know, for those who may not understand, again, we're on the DeBrief show. What is this step? What is this republicanism that we are talking about? Because we understand that there's the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. We may understand of the Republic of Dominica, right? Is it Dominican Republic?
Dominican Republic, yeah.
Right, and we hear a number of these, Republic of Congo and all of these other name being things. We're not talking about Republican Party, but some people may think Republican US. But when we speak about republic as a country to turn to republic, what in essence are we really saying to the people of Barbados? Because we understand in two phases. Some Barbadians don't even understand the term, or don't even care about the term, or don't even care at all about Barbados becoming a republican, because they don't see the value between being a republican or staying as Barbados under the England territory. And how do we then explain to them the importance or the value, as Kimar would have said, the last administration would have seek to move us to a Republican country. And I think this was talks even before in Arabaro days and all of that, but it's now looking to materialize underneath this administration. What is it about becoming a Republican country that will make people comfortable to know either you're protected because you're right now, if somebody touches, we are under Britain. But if somebody touches, no, we might as well be at war with anybody on our own. Would we cut off trade? Would we affect the sterling? Would we affect this? So there's a lot of questions that are going to go into people's mind. What is it that we can explain to the people about this republicanism that would make them be comfortable? Anybody?
I'm just thinking, everything always comes down to it comes to what do they know. And the fact that we're here, I'm getting the impression, and I even what I got a little bit from Kimar beforehand, because I wanted to understand what's going on with Barbados, is just that people don't know. So the first thing is to actually look at what a republic is, surface level. So you're looking at, right now, you have to make a choice. Essentially, you're looking at the people have the power. And then you determine if you're going to be have the head of state as the monarch, which in the case of British Empire would be the Queen, or you're going to have a president. And the president is either going to be an elected or a nominated official. Okay, that's very simple way. Where it gets complicated, however, is that you have different types of republics.
That's
So
it.
in the Caribbean, you've got Dominica, that's a parliamentary republic. It's got a ceremonial head of state, who is the president. In Trinidad, it's the same thing. It's this parliamentary republic, ceremonial head of state. What happens in Trinidad? Pretty much what your governor general is doing. The governor general acts on behalf of the queen and appoints the president. The governor general appoints the prime minister, and upon the advice of the prime minister, the cabinet is put in place. All is going to happen in that kind of parliamentary republican, in that type of parliamentary republic, is now the president is going to do what the governor general used to do. It's all ceremony. That's the Trinidad model. That's the Guyana model. Now, sorry, not the Guyana, the Dominica model. Guyana's model is that the president is elected, and that president is the head of state. Okay, so that president is elected by the people. That's the presidential route. We also see the closest that we see in that, even though it looks different, is the US has this presidential republic. Okay, so that works like that. And the only other country in the Caribbean region where we see a different route is Haiti. And Haiti has a semi-presidential route, or it's a premier presidential route. Again, the president is elected by the people. The prime minister is elected by the people. And so the prime minister is chosen by the president based on whoever has the majority votes. So we're not seeing a whole lot of dynamic stuff. Where we get into the difficulties is where's the control of power? So it's so easy. I'm hearing a couple things. I'm hearing national identity, which is good. What is national identity? And who is determining that national identity? And we think the simple thing is right now, Britain's determining that. And that is to some extent true. But a lot of times the national identity, because you talked about it, Simon, is we want to create our own stories. Well, that's what happens. When you have the identity of the leaders begins to affect the identity of the people. It affects the identity of the nation. So if you have leaders, and this is where we get into the tricky stuff, when you have leaders with identity issues, what's going to happen to the nation? If you have the leader of the country who's struggling with who they are, and they aren't even comfortable in their own skin. So let's say you have somebody with a slave mentality running the country. What does that say when you have the head with a slave mentality affecting the country? How does that affect everybody else in the country? Because this is who you're saying we are looking up to, and this is the person who is leading us. So that's one of the things that you have to look at. And so now you've got these different models that you have going on in the Caribbean. Which model is Barbados going to take? I'm hearing November 2021, this year, is when you wanted to make the change. Well, hello, this is April. Shouldn't people have known by now what model Barbados is going to be using?
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's going to be more, as you said, it was a parliamentary republic.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be more that style, most likely. But then again, I'm making that assumption because if you're going to do it so quickly by November, I don't think that we're going to have a presidential republic where the president is directly voted for and the prime minister selected and so on. I don't think it might be that route. I'm just speculating though.
Well, Simon, based on what the prime minister would have said, she said we are going to more than likely take the route of having a appointed president, right?
Correct.
And she herself has no interest in being the president per se.
Okay.
So I think that is mostly going to just be the ceremonial replacement of the governor general into being the president. Like I said, a couple years ago, there was already the plans for a Republican song and a Republican anthem and the different cosmetic changes that are needed within the country. But one thing I really want to touch on though is the what you would call the effects on the population. So will it change how we engage our leaders? Will the voting system change? It will be in a republic change the inequalities in wealth.
Economic models.
Yes. How now do we manage with because if you look at Guyana, Guyana is very racially divided.
Very.
So it's divided between the Afro and the Indian. So how now do we eh, let me say, are we putting Barbados along the lines of developing like a racial kind of politics? Does it have any connection to do with being a republic? So these are some of the issues that the academics, I would say, could focus on, and people generally could discuss, because I think that in changing to become a republic, you actually change the whole entire social fabric of the country. So as opposed to having being taught a colonial education and being taught the
Correct.
value of as they say, the colonial and our colonial past in Britain, you now change the structure of the country to say, well, Barbados first. So do you now change the education system to teach Barbadian culture in schools and allow us to develop, as you say, Simon, our own story and our own history to start to recondition the minds of the public from being a former colony to being, as you say, your own, or reaching your own success now.
But I think that what Dr. Chung was saying, in the sense that if you're seeking to move us, especially as swiftly as you are, because in one essence, the government could have already had plans, probably piggybacking off the plans of the previous administration, but there's no, public consultations. We don't understand the leisure. Again, as Simon alluded to, that we will be speculating here, because none of us truly knows even the power that would reside with the president, or the power that will reside with the prime minister. Because while you may say the governor general is a ceremonial head, her office still functions with a great deal of power, especially when it comes to national curfews, in terms of firing when it comes to firing of public servants. So there's a number of things.
Emergency powers.
The sway and the influence. Would the president then keep all of that, or would it be additional powers? Would powers be now lean from the governor general to the prime minister? And how would the executive order be set up? Like America has like a tripartisan setup, from the public, from the Congress to the Senate to the chief command-in-chief office, which is the executive. But we don't know generally where we lie with power. We don't know who would have one or who would have none. And I think this is important to understand if you're going to move forward to a republic country. Then at this stage, some sort of draft paper, some sort of online seminars and some sort of consultation should be the focus of the day, so that we are in a better position to basically help chart our future. Because it's one thing to say, yes, it would feel good becoming a republic country. But if you're a republic country where you are more moving to a dictatorial country rather than a republic, it has the name republic, but it feels like a dictatorship, like how we have North Korea and other countries, or you could be in the future moving towards a dictatorship, then you may better serve staying where you are. Dr. Chung?
I don't think you're going to get any government telling you that that's where they're going. That is one of the things that happens. That's the beauty of language in politics, you see. You can create things, you can create a narrative that people buy into because they like the language and it sounds good. So now you're saying, we're going to throw off the colonial powers. And some people might go, oh, that sounds good, but they're not telling you behind the scenes, or if there is a behind the scenes of other things. What else are you, if I'm giving this up, what have I bought into? And
Correct.
Every time you think about freedom, there's always a level of responsibility that comes with freedom. So you're presuming that you're getting more freedom. There's a burden and a responsibility that comes with greater levels of freedom. when the people are buying into it, and I know that right now, the way your government is set up, they don't have to come to the public, if I understand it correctly, for a referendum, but the information is critical. Because if you want to get people to truly buy into something, you need to communicate. Vision always has to be communicated. It's
That's
not just
it.
in your head, you got to communicate that vision. So if nobody else but you understands what's happening, how can I say yes 100%? And people need to know not only how is this affecting them, but how is this affecting the next generation and the generations after. So if we aren't aware of all the implications, and Safra, you said some of the things. How is this gonna affect trade? How is this gonna affect a lot of other areas?
Correct.
Really are the implications apart from the replacement of this head of state? What are the implications? And people need to know that, because
Yes.
there's going to be a greater level of responsibility that the people have to
And
give up.
accountability.
But
Yeah.
Yes.
also who at this
Zachary,
point, who is,
that's one of the. Sorry. All right. To encapsulate what you guys were saying, there were reports coming out of England about Barbados' move to become a republic being influenced by China, and there was a war of words between the two countries as about the influence that the Chinese may have in this decision, right? So if you're hearing information like that coming out, but then the government is not necessarily coming out and putting the
Addressing
facts
it.
there, yeah, putting the facts out there, then that leaves speculation to be in the air. And rightfully, as Zachary said, how does it affect the country in terms of trade and what's not? So we know China is signing up for the Belt and Road Initiative, and if we look from the constitutional side, there's a lot of restrictions in the country. So if we move into a republic, are we looking for more constitutional freedoms? Are we looking for more economic freedoms? Are we not
Correct.
replacing the queen with the emperor? You know, what's the trade-offs?
but
Yeah.
keep to jump on that
Correct.
question when we talk about if it is being influenced by this or influenced by that. I don't necessarily mind the influence because it is something that, as I said, the people want. It is conversation that even started before the Chinese. You know, it's something that even the forefathers of the country wanted to move the country towards. And so it is not only about whether it's going to open, if it's going to benefit the country with proper trades. I mean, bigger nations have always been fighting for power over smaller nations for years. But
That's colonial history.
importance is where or how is that? How do we see ourselves? What is the
Correct.
thing that we are
It's
putting
national
into
identity.
and the national identity? And as I said, whether it be, as you said, emperor, whatever, those are the questions that need to be answered at this particular time. Where is Barbados is, and also one of the important things, who is consulting on our on moving us to a republic? Who is the person
True.
ready in
Yeah.
the college? Who is this consultant, so that we have an understanding of how they help set up other structures or set up other nations, you know, so you can
Correct.
judge.
But I
I
think
think
something really good, because Kimar said people are concerned about the influence of China, and China has a tremendous amount of influence in the Caribbean. We know that it has a lot of weight in terms of what's even going
definitely.
on now in the US. So you've got to ask, is it really the push for this republicanism coming from the people, or is it coming from other nations like China who want to pretty much leave you hanging on your own without maybe that kind of coverage of another country, so that they can now come in and be not in the responsibility, even though that's really, I use that word lightly, not in the responsibility that maybe an official colonial country had, but carrying even greater influence in what happens in the country, and how much
That's
Barbados going to give up for, let's say it's a China or another country having influence. Is it that we're going to allow it to just be replacing in name, but in reality someone else is coming in and taking over?
yeah. I
If
think
I
I
can
think that's a very good
Simon,
question.
before you answer your question, you can then answer it. I just want to read the two comments that was left lingering for a while by Graham Vaughn. Question for the panel. I have a friend who have had the opportunity to study under various Commonwealth scholarships. What is the individual benefit and value for Barbadians when Barbados leave the group, right? So that's in terms of studying. Second question, what actual influence has the Queen had in the political life of Barbados since 1966? Has she intervened in our power structure, in our power structure since independence? If not, what exactly are we getting away from? Two questions, good questions, Graham. I'll leave it. Sorry, Simon, you could answer, and then Dr. Keenly could go
Yeah.
from.
I had a point, but I'll try to answer what Graham is saying. But the Commonwealth scholarship, of course, would be for those countries that are part of the Commonwealth. If Barbados withdraws from being necessarily I must say, we still would be an ally with England, but we will not be considered as part of the Commonwealth anymore. Scholarships may still be given, or scholarships will still be given. So that's neither here or there. I think the real issue. Yeah, we still be part of the Commonwealth, but we were colonized by England. So yeah, I think the real issue coming out here is, and it goes back to national identity. I think that what people are concerned about is when we become a republic, what and both Kimars and Dr. Chung touched on it. What will be the new image or the new face of Barbados when we become a republic? One of the things messages that comes out with all Republican governments and nations is that it's supposed to be government by the people and for the people, a greater interest on civics and anti-corruption. That's one of the things that a lot of republic governments speak about, that, you know what, this is a government for the people. There's no hidden agenda. We're going to try to bridge the gap between those who are rich and poor and so on, to make it a more, to see more equity in the distribution of wealth in the country. When you move towards a republic, that's the ideal. It doesn't mean it happens, but ideally you're saying that, okay, we're becoming a republic because we want to push civics, we want to push government, and we want to make sure that we have a government that is fair and accountable to the people. And the people feel as if they have a greater voice in a republic than in another system of government. So I think when it comes back to national identity and what it is that we want for ourselves as Barbadians, we got to be careful, or we have to make sure that when we become a republic, it adds more freedoms, or should I say, it allows the people to have freedom. Whether it's freedom of expression, freedom to be more engaged in the democratic process, freedom to have their voices heard more. I think that becoming a republic ideally should lean towards that.
Is there an absence of that now?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but can it be deepened? But the question is, to what extent? Yes, we have political participation. Yes, we have different pressure groups and other groups, civic NGOs and so on in Barbados. But becoming a republic, how does that deepen the process?
You see, the discussions that you're having here right now is the discussions that should be in town halls. Those are the discussions that everybody, if you're going to talk about having a truly representative government, those are the discussions that need to be had so that people can have the say, so that it is a government for the people, by the people.
And I think that is where the danger lies for me, is that we create a structure, claim it to be a structure or whatever, and then we say to the people, what is your input? When already everything is in the making, everything is in the happening, and you're asking for input where the input would not even be considered or be considered under any circumstances, because those the powers that be, or those who you selected to make the decision, the few for the thousands, would then go ahead and make the decision. And most of the time it would these things causes confusion. These things causes friction and division, because I am in the NGO sector, and I said, well, as an NGO leader, I have not had an input on this. You may be in the law fraternity, and you say, as a lawyer, I didn't have input on this. And well, I agree that everything cannot always be all inclusive in terms of where it has to be in the Constitution. And I believe that wiggle room is left to adjust as you go, because you're getting into something new. Well, Trinidad may be into it, or this may be into it. Our reactions are always rather different because of the culture and the different type of people that we serve. And I think that, we are slow again in all inclusiveness in terms of respecting the views of the countrymen, respecting the views of those that are in positions to advise. And I think that is something where we fall as a country when it comes to, making decisions, because all of us have been affected by this decision making all the time. That does not include people, certain people in this country.
Yeah. You said something that was very important, and it popped the question in my mind: does republicanism mean less democracy? Right. And if we look at put Barbados in the context of, there's a plan to bring the local government into place.
That's it.
If we track back a couple of years, local government was in Barbados before, and it was abolished. If you go back to like the 1600s, Barbados was a republic before. I don't think many people know that.
Now what?
Right?
Sorry,
That Barbados was a republic.
A colonial republic.
Colonial republic.
a colonial, okay.
Right.
But true.
But it places into my mind, we now take the quote unquote administrative ceremonial power from England and place it into the hands of a Barbadian, right?
But isn't it already in the hands of a
In the hands of Barbadian.
So that's what, and I think somebody asked you,
quote unquote. I said quote unquote because figuratively is yes, because the person is still a representative of the Queen, which means that the Queen still has the say, regardless if she had it or not, regardless if she
but
did it or not.
Most people say that when you go to the Governor General, or let's say the Governor General activates something, it always says, I don't know if you guys ever figure, acting on the advice of. So it's not necessarily the Prime Minister Walker, the governor, just say, hey, I want to lock down the country for a week. I don't find it most times, if it is, I don't know, that she says yes. She would say yes. Because it's always on the advice of the Prime Minister who has superior power, but obviously you have to seek advice of the person. Yes, that person and represent the Queen. I don't think that the Governor General picks up the phone and call the Queen and say, hey, Queen, we're looking at lockdown the country. Yeah, let me pass it on to the Prime Minister. I think that's the discretion of the DG.
Let me give you an example. Recall the court in England, the Privy Council. Was our final court. We developed the CCJ, and now that's our original court. You still have countries in the Caribbean that don't sign on to the CCJ but still go to England, right?
Right.
But the question too is why to that? The security, the comfort, why? Because the CCJ is a Caribbean Court of Justice, but for us, by us.
Correct.
Right.
With the best legal minds.
I can't tell you why they would go, but the overarching point that I'm trying to make to you is that most local courts enact justice, yes. And if you feel that your rights were overrated or what's not, then you have a choice to go. Then you have the choice to go outside. But now when you remove that choice constitutionally now, it's no longer available to you. So when you close that window that's available to England, then the choice is no longer there for you. Vest all powers into your local representatives. And when you vest more power into your local representatives, then and Dr. Chung made the point is, do these persons that we know select, and she's made the point about slaves, but I won't say that anybody's slave, but these local persons, how now will these persons enact the power on behalf of the people, right? With more power, with more power being invested in a local constitution that will be crafted by local attorneys now. What can we expect in a constitution, in a Barbadian constitution that was not in an independence constitution, right? As we have UWK, most of our lawyers come from UWK and then go to Trinidad to study. A good few of them went to colleges in the UK as well.
That's right.
And they come back, to the region. So again, my point really is, are the persons that we are trusting with this new and vested powers that will come into the Republic be more, will it be more democratic in going to Republic, or will it be less democratic in going to Republic, and that these people will not believe that we are trusted with the power to act on behalf of the people? So there's no longer a need to be so pro-democratic, because now you would have put the trust in us, the elected officials.
You want to take the question, Dr. Chung?
Well, I think that has to do with what system you put in place, how much of it is going to be changed in the Constitution. And so just changing your head of state, that's a little tweak to the Constitution. But if other things that are going to be impacted, so it's all of these things that are questions that I may not be able to answer, but your government needs to answer. What else is going to happen to the Constitution? What other changes are going to be made in the Constitution? And is that going to be rushed through to meet this November deadline?
I have a question here. Simon, you can add to it if you want to. It says from Greenville Phillips. For balance, it would be useful to describe the benefits of current system to the public over a Republican form of government. There are always two sides of an issue. Yeah, I have another thing here from Grahamson. My point is that so far, all the things that have been identified for as national identity or other facets of being a republic, there is nothing which cannot be achieved in the current political structure. The changes which have been outlined have been mooted by several governments for some time. How will the move to republic status get these changes? Get these changes to actually happen? So I guess he's asking, what changes will we see? How will we make process easy?
But you see, sadly for Graham and for those who are actually posing the questions to us, these, unless we have a clear understanding of the type of the republic we are going to have and what really would be the vision for Barbados with the republic system, we can't totally answer them. What we could really speak to is what we know happens throughout the region and so on. We know that if you become a republic, you confer your own national honors. A lot of those simple cosmetic changes.
Simon, is that what we want? Because for me, if I look at being a republic, I'm not concerned about rather honors or in Barbados name,
the Queen's name or her name.
Whoever name, because here's what. Most Barbadians are always happy when they get honors outside than when they even get honors on the inside. I mean,
I'm a queen. So Kimar, then the real issue, the real issue then, I think if Bajans really look at it, is that they want some kind of constitutional reform that is able to work more in favor for the majority of Barbadians.
Yeah,
the Constitution of itself, along with the freedoms and the rights it ensures for each citizen, would speak towards making the government, I think, making the government more accountable, more transparent. That's why you have legislation like the anti-corruption legislation and so on, to make the government more accountable to the people. That's the main thing that's one.
Yeah, but
I want to put into perspective, because I attended the swearing in of Parliament, and I heard, I said I might want 2 years, and I heard I pledge allegiance to Queen Elizabeth II, to her heirs and successors. And I was like, why are we still saying this in 2018? Why are we still pledging our allegiance to Queen Elizabeth?
Suppose we change it and say I swear allegiance to me and Motley.
It won't be her.
President
It
of
will be to the
but no, it would be the prime
It would
minister
be to
telling me Motley, the president,
yeah.
and her
president.
heirs and successors.
I don't feel it would
the
be that. I
cabinet,
feel it would be the People's Republic of Barbados,
People's
similar
Republic
to
of
what
Barbados.
Jamaica, yeah, similar to what
Hey, let me
Jamaica
just be,
said.
let me just be facetious.
I know.
but that's one of the drawbacks of, because we don't know, so we could
We
end
don't,
up with
as
a
I said earlier,
situation
we don't.
where the prime minister want to be Kim Jong-un and would want people to pledge loyalty to the office, right? As opposed to the country. Like they say, we don't know. So as Dr. Chung said, there are questions that need to be answered as to the direction that we are going in terms of the outlook of the republic.
And I think
Right.
Simon mentioned something about the Commonwealth as well, and that's one of the things that you got to answer as well. Does Barbados stay in the Commonwealth when this change takes place? Because some places, some countries may choose not to stay in the Commonwealth. You can
Correct.
go the Republic route and
Oh.
stay in the Commonwealth. So will that be affected?
But you could be marginalized as well. You know, not being in the Commonwealth means you may not be able to take part effectively in grant funding. You may not be able to take, and in essence, we don't.
And this is where our allies come. This is where our allies come to the rescue.
Right.
Our allies come to the rescue.
And not only that, Simon, who is now negotiating on our behalf new trade policies, all of these things that we would have been, or is the sterling going to be 3-for-1 still, or is it going to drop now? And so there's a number of things that
those are questions that only
I mean, we have eight more months before this state presidents in this country. But the question is it still going to happen? Because, you know, with COVID, with changes, is it still the right time to be able to move to a republic country? Because there's so much other implications. I mean, and one of the things too, Britain is now on its own, being that it exit. So is it? Yeah, it's the right time because you don't really got the European nation being you no more as not ally nothing. Is exactly. It the right time? So there's so much, you know, you're standing alone. Go ahead.
Right, but the thing about it, the thing about it for me. Sorry, go ahead, Doc.
Sorry, go ahead, Adja.
It comes back to the whole thing of national identity, and you got to be careful saying national identity, because is it just saying that we have national identity but we have no sovereignty? When
you have your own Air Force, you have your own army,
So when you had Britain with Brexit, what you had was a restoration of sovereignty, at least in principle, because it's still got to be ironed out. And so now, even when we were pushing forth with the vaccine, even though it was a little ahead of its time with what it did, but because we were already on the route to Brexit, we were no longer deadlocked into what Europe wanted to do, and they were behind us. So there's an advantage of sovereignty, and so you've got to look at that too. So it's you can be alone in terms of your sovereignty and still be a part of something. So you could be on, of course, with your Republican status, but you could still be a part of the Commonwealth and not lose the benefit of that. But you don't have to give up sovereignty.
Correct. And I think that's the issue going forward. That's the issue going forward. Go ahead, Kimar.
Yes. I was thinking that this move has a lot to do with more of the legal aspects, and that, as I said, our independence constitution may be a little restrictive as per the direction that or the vision that the prime minister or the leaders may have at this point, right? So they need to operate in a new legal space for Barbados may be important. Also being able to chart our geopolitical and global direction in the sense that some of how our trade structures and some of our deals and what's not that was negotiated in the independence time may not suit Barbados going forward. So as opposed to being using the connection with Britain for Barbados's benefit, maybe the new direction that Barbados needs to go needs to be more to do with Africa. Maybe it needs to go with China. It needs to go with China, or Barbados could possibly have like a direct connection with the European Union in itself, or maybe it needs to have something more. That's finishing, or the Latin American countries, right?
Law.
So my thing is, um, the country may need the freedom to be able to negotiate that path because, and this is just speculation, because there may be some restrictions that we may not be privy to that locks Barbados into a position that may not suit where it needs
That's
to
it.
go.
I think
That's it.
I think that's my fear. And but in a sense, I agree with you that this is again going back to why we need this consultation. Barbados has to now negotiate a lot of things. One of my fear now that you're not pegged to the UK is that now you're on your own. I hear the Prime Minister alluded to it in several UN meetings and all of that, where the smaller states are marginalized, and we could also be thrust into people taking advantage if you don't have a strong leader going forward. You're no longer pegged to this. So people may want to say, okay, as you were saying, China may be forcing this because they may see benefit. Other countries, bigger nations may come and say, when it comes to the G20 nation may say, huh. But the other question is, what does Barbados really have to offer to the world now that it stands alone?
But let me
What does
get
Barbados?
into that.
We have oil, it doesn't have, we have sand, sun, and sea, but don't forget, our largest tourism population is from the UK. How would
right?
you?
But they're not going to stop coming. But Kimar, let me jump in there. I think that
I don't think they're going to stop coming, but it may have trickling effects.
Right. Let me go back to what Dr. Chung was saying. When we look at leadership is very important. And the reason why I say leadership is very important because, and let's be real, let's look at the Prime Minister that we have now in terms of vision.
Excellent leader, right, Simon?
Clearly. But I don't want to go into all the details because people might say you're partisan. But put aside the politics right now, let me get real. But let's get real. In terms of global reach and delivering on promises, you know that our Prime Minister said she was going to get vaccines. We get the vaccines, right?
Yeah.
But but beyond that, what I'm saying is that this particular Prime Minister we have now has such a global influence and is known, and that's why I believe that she is able to, with her cabinet, to push the whole republic status for Barbados.
But the fear may not be knowing. What must sometimes my fear is?
I know the fear is exactly. The fear is not knowing.
Successive leadership. And
right, but that's why it is important. That's why it's important that the Constitution, the Constitution that we have to take us into becoming a republic, has to be one that does not give the president or the Prime Minister outlandish powers. Things like having X amount. We should put a limit on terms, and you always talk about this, Kimar. Even in terms of term limits. Those are things that we need to discuss. Yeah. You don't believe in term limits, Kimar?
No. I think because it's not like you're forcing yourself, the people have to vote for you. So if the people continue.
Not necessarily. I often have the view,
right? Term limits though.
I often have the view. Politics is not a career.
For Prime Minister.
Politics is not a career. Politics is an opportunity to serve
service.
And here's what. Your old crusty mind after 30 years in politics is not as sharp as somebody that is a millennial or somebody.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Is serve 10 to 15 years and get the hell out of there for somebody else to come.
Before you move,
it's not a career. It's not a career. It's an opportunity to serve the country.
This is where a lot of political organizations and to some degree even the one that I was a part of don't look at succession planning. If you don't have succession planning, what happens is that, okay, the last set gone. What are we going to do now? You're going to go back to the last set that the people rejected? Or do you have a succession plan in place to take not only your party forward, but the country forward?
I once hear Simon, I once hear a government official when I went to meet with them said to me, and this person was in the technology department, and they said, well, I still use pager. And I was like, huh? And you is a head in a technology I was like, who the hell pages you? Because
correct, as an ornament.
Yeah, I mean that's an antique. Probably could get a good couple thousand. But I'm just saying is, when we are in politics, when you start your business, that is not even a lifetime nothing there, because you have to start success planning so that your sons or your whatever could lead. So not even your own business is guaranteed for life. That's why you see big businesses step back as I sit on the board, I make billions and millions because they know somebody from a college that is well trained in this, and you can't say in the year of our Lord 1800 and think they taught me how to do maths and think that could work with the 21st century math. No, so I'm always of the belief that politics is a service, not a career.
You're a public servant.
If you want to be serving the public long enough, become a public servant then. But don't come in politics to make decisions and you can't tune in. You gotta ask me how to use your phone because you ain't in tune with the latest or the whatever. You gotta ask me what is this or what is that. So I'm just saying, to be fair, there are people that, if I love American structure, that you serve for a particular time, because why?
Then you won't.
That country is made up of millions of people that want the opportunity to be able to serve. And if we then, in Barbados, we have a lot of bright minds. And the reason why the bright minds cannot get an opportunity to serve in this country is because nobody don't want to go home. Even from the public sector, you over the age limit. And I'm not saying that you're old and you're frail and you can't function. What I'm saying is, go home, because other people would like the opportunity. The three of us here that are political hopeful, being a political hopeful is just being a political hopeless in your mind, because at the end of the day, as much as you hoping to be a politician in this country, one of the three of us in here or two of the three of us on this chat or all three of us will never become a politician in this country. Why? Because they got people that do not want to move.
That is it.
Yeah,
that is it, Kimar.
Let me hear you.
That is it. I agree with you.
What you're talking, couple things. Succession planning. Now, before you touch succession planning, you got to have vision. So now,
Lord.
What happens a lot of times with the politicians is they don't really have vision. They have plans that will be re-elected.
Wow.
On the backbone of nothing.
When you are thinking about vision, you are always thinking about the generations to come, because the vision enables succession planning to take place. So you know that I'm going to be at this leg of the race. I'm going to be able to accomplish this. But because I got the vision, I can now begin to prepare this next person or whoever's coming up behind me to continue the vision that was started. So you can't move anywhere. You can't have any succession planning without clear vision.
And a lot of people a lot of politicians do not have that next person in line. A lot of politicians do not even pull off what they learned because they're too stood behind people. And some of them were able to walk behind people for years and be able to get that momentum, that education, that skill set to be able to come and apply. But no, they don't want the me, you, Simon, or anybody behind them. You know why?
I want to jump in here. I'm real passionate about it.
Let me read this question. Let me read this question from Roger Simon and see if you can put it in as well to your question. What if the leader is head and shoulder above the other option? Should the nation automatically suffer because someone else wants an opportunity?
That's a good question. But a head and shoulder leader that is good, the head and shoulder leader that is good prepares the next leader. Is all about succession planning and understanding the vision. The number two has to understand the vision of the number one until he or she becomes the number one and then sets a vision for the next number two. That's what happens.
Okay.
That is what, and there's a big disconnect in Barbados right now, because what we're trying to do, and I believe what is happening right now is that, and COVID was bad, but COVID was also good, because a lot of things that we were struggling with for 10 and 15 years in terms of technology and going online and paying bills and doing digital banking, we were forced to do during COVID, correct?
Yeah.
So yes, COVID was bad, but it was also good. Because a lot of things that we were dragging our feet on, we had to come to terms and do. And it's the same thing with leadership. So go ahead, Kimar.
right, there was a story coming out about the civil service changing the terms of engagement for
Contracts, yes,
high-level civil servants into contracts.
contracts.
So I wanted everybody's opinion on that. And as like, will this be a permanent feature of New Republicans? Well, it will be a
Explain
new
it,
feature of
Mark,
the
because I haven't
Republicans.
heard it. Can you give me some more meat on that?
Yeah. So for people like permanent secretaries and certain high-level
DPS.
government jobs,
Mm.
and that they will no longer be permanent, that they will be on contracts going forward. So
Permanent is a hard thing.
whenever the administration changed,
Mm.
they will change. And I know that you are a big fan of
Of
that,
course,
right?
of course.
And right,
You must
so
be able to
I
function
wanted,
with
I
an
wanted,
executive that functions with you.
There you go.
right. So I
Correct.
wanted, so I
Love
wanted
the,
your
love
guys,
the US citizen,
right,
US and the US has a policy with that. When they come in,
right,
everybody quit.
right.
And a
So I
reservation.
wanted
Correct.
some discussion around that, and also the question to everybody that believe in term limits. If we had term limits in place in 19, and even 2000, we would have not got the prime minister we got today, and we would have not seen a couple of the visionary leaders who found their strides after 2 terms, maybe 3 terms, right? So I understand the need to change,
Yes.
but it can also disadvantage some good visionary talent coming through the pipeline
Mm.
who may not have had the chance to be in position to serve. So
I don't agree. I don't
that,
agree,
But
Mark.
I
I
go
don't
ahead.
agree that we would not have the leader we have now, because
True.
we don't know. I would say we probably would have had that leader a well back since 2013, because
Possibly.
and we would not have been in a lot of neck and wood situation that we find ourselves in today. As I said to you, and I keep saying to you, that politics is not a career. Now, one of the other things
I
about
agree.
term limits is that some of the reasons Barbados and a lot of these Caribbean countries are stifled is because the executive stays while the politician goes. And people do not understand the function between a permanent secretary and a minister. People do not
Correct.
understand the function between the separation of powers. So, for example, you will see a ministry feel in terms of how it does certain stuff in the public eyes. So let's say, for example, we complain a lot about welfare system in Barbados. We run to the minister and say, Minister, the agency on it you feeling. But the minister has no power over the chief welfare officer, because there's a separation. The power over the chief welfare officer is the permanent secretary. And if the permanent secretary ain't pulling their weight, because the minister only serves as a policy head, not a operation head. If money is missing in the government, it is not the minister, it is the permanent secretary, because that's the chief operating officer and the chief financial controller of the ministry. So you see, when you have that, but the minister comes out in public and takes all the blows for that ministry. And then when things ain't happening, you say, Minister, nothing ain't happening in Barbados, because when the permanent secretary don't like the minister and the minister don't like the permanent secretary, the minister, you have a society. So we need to separate that.
But I want to say something, Kimar, and it goes back to what Dr. Chung said about leadership. See, leadership is everything right now. Don't let anybody fool you.
It is.
Because even when I study it now, and I'm seeing the things that were on the cards to be done in Barbados that are being done now, it means that leadership is important. Now people say, oh, well, if it's a leader, sometimes a leader be a bully. At the end of the day, a leader has to get things done. All right? A leader has to get things done. And to be quite honest, leadership is not for the faint-hearted and for the person that can't take the blows and the bad talk or whatever. When you're a leader, your vision is crystallized in your mind. It is up to you now to make sure that all those persons following you and supporting you buy into that vision. If it means you got to shuffle the deck, you shuffle the deck. If it means you got to move this person here and move that person there, you do it. Because you are trying to create a winning team and develop a culture of winning. Some of the best leadership you see is in football. with those who follow Premier League football and so on, leaders, managers going with teams and say, "Lord, this is what I want. You starting this, we doing this formation, and we can do it for this season and see what happens." And the teams that win at high level in football are the ones that are able to adapt. And that's why leadership is important. And people must be able to see your vision. You can't be talking to people and they don't know where you're going or what it is that you want to achieve. So yes, I am passionate about leadership.
I'm seeing one of the courses that you guys give here is certificate in governance and political leadership. Is one of the courses that you guys offer. I mean, you heard us talking long. We could talk about politics all day. Any input? We don't want to bore you.
Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead, sir.
You talk. You can't get away from the leadership. You ain't gonna, no matter what. And I think we were talking about term limits before. Now you got to find that interesting because the president the president has in the U.S. you got 2 terms maximum.
8 years. No?
It would be good if you could also have term limits for the senators and people in the House, because these are people who are dropping down and need to go. And some of them, they have gone, they've passed their sell-by date already.
Very much so. Well said.
And because there are no term limits in place, you can have people just get accustomed to just voting that person in. And sometimes you think about it. Sometimes people vote because they go, well, he can get in or she can get in anyway. So they just continue. They know, and you listen to the constituents and they will tell you this person has not done anything. So you're thinking, well, why are they still in? Because those same people who are complaining about that leader continue to vote that leader in. But if you have the term, you address
voter apathy.
Well, there's a question here. MPs should not be given ministerial posts, and this is where you don't see the separation. Another question. In BIM, we come to believe the ministers are the ones who wield the power, and so people call upon them, and because they call upon them because they can't separate. The MP should be the one advocating on the behalf. One of the things I would love to see in Barbados, right, is the Jamaica. Now we talk about the separation between the politician and which is the MP. Well, let's say the MP and the minister. In Jamaica, they have what you call councillors. That means when you are doing election, you do the election for the MP, but there could be 4, depending on how big the constituency is, councillors. And the people could elect who they want to be councillors. That means those persons are the one running the constituency on the behalf of the MP who may turn a minister, right? Or who, whatever, if you don't turn a minister, you're still an MP. But those 4 persons are helping to wield, and well, we have in some cases we call branch executives. They're just selected few. They're not electing the people that make them feel like they work and need to work. And so we need to put in that when the MPs turn ministers, that they have a bunch of councillors working in behalf, or whatever you want to call them, working on behalf. Or my humble suggestion is that just as much as you have the MPs, you can select one of these same senators to be able to help function as representatives in the constituency, which gives them a little bit stepping stone, because in most cases in Barbados, when you're a senator in Barbados, that's the future for you to become an MP. Okay. So if you're talking about successive planning, give them junior roles now that will see them roping in behind a minister to be able to train for the future. And again, 2 terms in for the minister, 2 terms in for the senator.
Yeah, I got a couple of points, 3 points there to me. The government is putting in the local government. Remember that the local government is supposed to come on stream. So I don't know if that will.
Which local government you're talking about? The Torah Commission?
The Torah Commission and
yes.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know if that. Right. I don't know if that will assist in where you are speaking about. In the American system, I think the president is able to pick his or her cabinet, right?
Yes,
and then
he is able to pick it 100%. Oh, sorry. On the advice of the Senate. So the Senate, because when the president chooses that individual have to go before Congress or Senate and give, you understand, a reason or satisfy the board why he or she is qualified enough for that position.
Right.
I like
But
that system.
okay, but that brings something into perspective, because I know for a fact in Barbados we got some real square pegs and round holes when it comes to ministerial execution. And some people get ministries, they want to know how, where, and why they get them, because they're not really qualified to have them. So I could definitely agree to something like that, right?
I
Also, if we look at
no.
Barbados' system, majority of the government senators are just doing somebody a favor and picking the Senate. I think the Senate needs to hold more responsibility in Barbados, and that it is the upper house of the country. So why just have a Senate that just rubber stamps what the government says? I think there should come a time where the Senate is actually separated from the control of the party in power at the time and becomes an administrative arm on its
Mm.
own, where the public can pick these senators to go in the house to actually oversee what the parliament sends forward. Because
I agree, because one of the things too, I don't mean to cut you, but one of the things too is that you got to understand too that being an MP is one thing, but when you have a ministry, it can be very tiring. And sometimes you can find that a person that might be a strong MP is a weak minister, or a person that's a strong minister usually is not that well known or that active in their constituency. So I do agree that if you're going to go towards a republic, the whole democratic process has to be deepened, where you have different levels. And both Kimars, you'll identify it, where you may have, if not a junior minister, you have somebody working on the ground, the constituency, the councillors, or whatever you want to call it. If they're tied to the community representative body, that is fine. But it is important that constituency matters are being addressed, even if not by the MP, by a designate that can deal with it.
But
And I think
Simon,
that years ago,
one last point before we
no,
kick off the
sorry, I just want to
conversation.
add to what Simon says there just before you go on. You remember one of the things that we have to look at is our constitution. And our constitution, once you're elected as an MP, you can become a minister. And so the constitution doesn't give weight for even Simon to be a MP, but Kimar being a citizen just may have background to become a minister. That person will have to be in the Senate, and most of the time, a Senate doesn't mean that as you say, it sometimes is a thank you for your engagement. So you are forced then, because don't forget, our last administration had 26 ministers. You're forced then to give ministries to quote unquote incompetent people, which you may not be incompetent, but you're forced to give them it. But the good leader could make that minister look good, because they go back to your leadership. But you're forced then to give to that, because I as a minister will feel bad that I work my tail off and also I do nothing. He had to face the electorate, come out here telling he's a minister, and I just become a MP, and then that may cause a little friction. So I think that if you're going forward with talking about a new constitution, that the constitution has to look at that some inclusiveness, and as Kimar said, give more power to the Senate, and see if, even because you can't pick your ministers from your Senate, but how do you do that without offending that MP that work hard and seeking to become, because all ministers, MPs seek to become. Go ahead, Ms. Chung, sorry.
So I know Jamaica had a case where they had someone who was there previously a minister of education. Now he couldn't do the MP thing because he didn't have the roaring and couldn't do the political campaign, and because he just couldn't rally the crowds. But he was an excellent minister of education. And when the PNP were elected, when they brought them back, when they came back again, he was brought back again as Minister of Education. So perhaps even as you look at consultation, it could be towards the Constitution to see, is something like that going to be allowed, where you can have someone maybe coming from the Senate being allowed to hold a ministerial post because they can actually do the job? Because you do have this struggle, but it's the system that you have, where the person has to be an MP to serve as a minister. And you're right. Simon is right. It is hard to juggle.
Yeah.
One is gonna suffer. Yeah, it is hard.
Yeah, I agree. But I have a peeve. I have a peeve with because I saw with my own two eyes where there were MPs who were very qualified, could do the job, but they get part on the back bench to come and let somebody come through the Senate and get right to the top of the food chain. No, I can't say necessarily that the person who got the job was the best person. I see it as the person being a loyalist to the prime minister, which is not ethical or fair to the MPs or those other persons who would have worked hard to get the job. No, that comes back down to a conversation of the power of the office of prime minister to appoint and disappoint. So how do you get a system where you are given ministries based off your qualification or based off your capability to do the job, as opposed to being at the whim and fancy of the prime minister? Because let's just say you lapdog the prime minister good enough, and the prime minister come and make you minister for not just because you were loyal, not because you were competent, right?
I
Oh no, right. So in the system of
That's what you're saying the last
republicanism,
prime minister did? That's what you're saying the last prime minister did? Sorry.
no names, no name, no locker.
Oh, I thought I heard the last prime minister there. My bad, sorry.
No. This
I
is what I have to say. If you elect a prime minister, I mean, if you are the captain of a team, you should be able to set your field. Cricket. We talk about cricket. You should be able to set your field, choose your players, work with the coach, and so on to have the winning team that you desire.
Mm-hmm.
It is impossible in politics. But no,
But Simon,
Kimar,
this
it
is
is
livelihoods of
impossible
people.
in politics.
This is the
It is
livelihood of people you're talking about. So we
Why
I
can't
are we
afford
understand, but you
we
are
can't
already
afford people making
but,
mistakes. We
but
can't
you are
afford for you
already
to
an
be
MP.
incompetent. We can't afford for you
But
to be no trying to do a thing because you know it can't be
I
that. Is
understand
that
what
we
you're saying,
need
brother.
qualified people who can hit the ground running to get the job done.
But
So
when,
Right,
but when we
yes,
use that word
picking it,
qualified,
I know.
be careful when we
No,
use the word qualified, because
not
people don't
not
always
in
carry
terms of
qualification, but some people may carry experience. Some people may
not in
carry.
terms of not
So,
qualification in terms of having the paper, but qualify means that you can do the job, right?
but
you can
again,
only judge a person on being able to do a job if they're given it. And guess what? The prime minister has the ability to do what? Reshuffle.
but
So
here
if
is
you
Simon.
appoint these people and they're not working well, any smart prime minister would say, you know what? I wanted this choice. I wanted to put this lady here at this ministry. It didn't work out. I am going to do a reshuffling.
So let
So
me
you
go
take
to
away the power of the prime minister
FDRC,
to be able to reshuffle.
right?
they said doctor.
FDRC,
They said doctor
we
does
had
mean.
a very large cabinet right now, as we could clearly see that they got some incompetence in it, right? And
All
as
right.
part of a political move,
But the last
the prime
administration
minister
was very
may
incompetent
not.
too. So don't say so. The last
But I'm not
administration was
saying.
rather
But
incompetent too.
I am not disputing
We
that.
talking about
I'm
no,
not
but
disputing
all right,
that.
Kimura.
I did
The
not
public
check
Come
that
on
in
now.
there though.
but
The last
the public
administration
school,
was
the
as
public school.
incompetent, and I think we put more trust in this administration than the last one. Sorry.
By far.
But
But let's
but the
Yeah.
continue.
public school. But the
I
public school.
I
So my
hear
point
Public
is,
sport clear too. Public
I
sport
just
real
want to
clear.
finish. I want to finish my point. I want to finish.
How you
The
get
point
me the
is,
Thank you,
DLP?
right? the point is, right? I say even lost my train of thought. The point
No, go
is,
ahead, Kimura. Go ahead. We can come back to
they
you.
got some incompetence that can
Yeah,
be
okay.
shipped out, right? But if we listen to the political scientists and if we listen to persons who may have a
Yeah.
vested interest in party politics, we know what a huge backbench would or dangers that could potentially cause
That's
for a
right.
leader of a political party and prime minister. So in a situation now where the taxpayers are forced to foot the bill because of a political decision based off of keeping of power of the leader of the organization, I think that these things need to be looked at
But that's
going forward
I
because
understand that, Kimura.
It's
But we
speculative.
had a situation in Barbados where we had too many ministries lumped up together. And some people argued that some of the ministries suffered. When you put youth and sport and technology and everything together as one, like at one point it was a mixture of ministries. Inevitably, one or two ministries may not get the attention that another might get. Culture might get more attention
But
than youth.
remember, Simon,
Youth might get more attention than sport.
They said when the minister was the minister of sports, youth, and culture, the only thing that he really got attention was culture. And then again, they said the minister was the minister of education and technical vocation, and the only thing that got attention was vocation. You know, that's as much as he took. You're right.
But be careful of these very, very big governments too, especially with a small country, because we have to be careful that we're not trying to get government to control every area of our lives. If you streamline what the government is supposed to be doing, and that's where you get into struggles, because the bigger the government, the less effective it is. That's standard.
True.
Any country you go to. Now, people will have different views on it, and some people want government to have this and say that and have influence in that. But really, should government be having so much impact into every decision-making area of the life?
And that, Chung, that's one of the fundamental problems I even have as a leader in the charity sector. That in America, a charitable sector is one to push society, not government. Society in terms of societal problems. When you find that governments are also stepping on the feet of NGOs. So for example, I may have a shelter, government owns a shelter. That doesn't make any sense. I may be dealing with cancer support society, and government has a cancer organization. I may be dealing with HIV, government has an HIV. I may be dealing with church, government has ecclesiastical department. And so you find that yes, they may take on so much more because they're trying to handle. And I think one of the things that I could appreciate that the Prime Minister did when she first came to power was send around a survey about departments that the government did not need to have. And it will let another one come out again about departments the government don't need to have, because it will show then that you can narrow down what government can do. Where I find that government should have a ministry for procurements, where it procure a lot more contracts rather than trying to deal with it themselves. And so a government of maintenance where they just take on a number of small businesses come on and need that maintenance group and start to maintain government building. So if you have certain things like these, it would happen. Now, I don't disagree with Kimar that there are incompetent ministers as much as they're incompetent MP, just as much as they're
degree to go learn. Every degree to go learn.
They have incompetence, but the problem is when you have incompetence in these areas, the problem is the incompetent remain. And because you vote in that incompetent person, you hire that incompetent person, and that person cannot by any chance move. And that's why I always the saying that the only thing that's supposed to be permanent in Barbados is horse that got permanent shoes, not jobs being permanent. Because when you give a full permanent job to a person, and a government permanent officers could tell you, well, or anybody in permanent position, not just pointing at one particular job, could tell you, well, look, you're a minister today and they're here tomorrow. You know?
They say that.
Being generous when you are politically driven into that position. So Simon, I ain't got no degree, or as you want to put it, or he ain't got nothing for this particular area. But because of a political association, Simon become chief border washer for the government. And I change, the government changed, and I come in and go deal with that puppet that in that position that ain't gonna do no work because he politically motivated to not do the work. It doesn't affect the politician only that at the top. It affects the country that it stars. And these, if we can move to Republic country, and if we can be moving leadership and we can be talking about civic responsibility, these are things that must go first.
So Kimar, I agree with you. So that means that there's a lot of things that gotta get addressed. And once again, leadership and political will is important. For years, I've been hearing about public sector reform. All right. So if you're talking about a republic and bringing Republican status and changing how Barbados is going to operate, we gotta look at public sector reform if you want to improve Barbados in any way. And I mean a deep, far-reaching reform that not only protects the government, but it protects the workers but it also helps people understand that you're a civil servant. Yes, these are your deliverables. If you do not meet these deliverables,
You
well, then
go.
out goes you. And that is where, in a smart way, the
Sorry,
prime minister. Go
I hear
ahead,
you, Doctor.
Company.
Huh?
Run it like a company.
I run a church and I run it like a
That's it.
company. Because if my
That's
staff
it.
cannot deliver, then I find someone who can. Because at the end of the day, it is my community that I serve that
Correct.
first and foremost is the priority of the organization. So if I have a staff that come in and I call in and say, boss, I came in today, and you feel that is you want to stay home for a year and 6 months, and I can't replace that position because you choose to come in on the first working day and then come back in on the last working day, which cover you. I see it happen in the school system where a teacher comes in at a particular time. You can't, because they come in for the school year, you can't replace that position, but you are forcing another teacher to go and try and fill in because you can't make that position redundant. Because that person came in at the beginning and at the end. These children do not have now the platform they need because, Simon, you may be your teacher in science, but you forced now to go and try and fill in the math. And that child doesn't have the right training they need from that qualified math teacher to be able to set the exam. And then you have a child coming out, or you have a pass rate of 50 or 40.
So Kimar, then you need public sector reform and you need constitutional reform to make anything, to get governments lean and mean, to get the whole service, the whole civil service lean and mean.
Yeah, because anytime you have a team, if I have a team of 11 people that works at the office here, and if I have a team that one is sowing discord, one comes in when he or she feel like, one don't do no work when they're here, and you have all of this incompetence lying within your organization, you fail. You set it yourself to fail, you fail. And that would be the detriment to the detriment, of the clients. Never to you, as an employee, you could get up and go and find another job somewhere and lie to the employer and say, well, I'm when they send in the CV, punctual, honest, always on time, hardworking, and they give you these, and like you give you pretty talk all along, and then when they start to work, nothing that they write in there ain't even half of who them is. They copy and paste it. So at the end of the day, you have to remove that. If you don't remove that, Simon, you fail. And that is why I like certain system when they say to the CEOs overseas or whatever, make me 100 million for the year. If you fall short by a cent, you got to go.
Yep.
And I'm not, I'm just showing you from that perspective that if we don't bring the government into the 21st century, it's like watching Days of Our Lives on CBC when it says 1989 and you in 2020 watching Days of Our Lives from 1989. You playing catch up. It's ridiculous.
It means your season has passed. Go ahead.
What is your season has passed? It come and gone again.
The thing is, if you don't begin to run governments like you would run a business, and that's the problem.
Correct.
We're not training people to manage. We're not training politicians to be good managers. We're not training them to be leaders, and we're not training them to be good managers. And so they don't know that you have to run a country the same way you'd run a business. And if you don't get that, then think about it. I keep saying, look at your home. How would you run your home? Who are you going to allow in your home? You don't just bring anybody in your home.
No.
When you have your business, if you are the owner of the business, I'm not just talking about you are an employee. If you are the owner of the business, a couple of things that were mentioned, you're going to choose who you have in their leadership structure, won't you? Yeah. And if you can't get along with them, there's going to be shuffling. So you Simon, you were using the analogy of football. And hey, I'm not a football person, so I'm just going with you, but it sounded good. So, but it's the same principle that you would bring in business.
Correct.
So if you don't manage that business, if you don't manage the country, if you don't manage the country's affairs, that's why you're called a current administration, is about the management. If you can't do that effectively, and even when you're running a business, if there's too much costs involved, a business is not going to sit there and continue to be borrowing. Hello, the debt that we go. Look at how much of your budget is actually funded from the country, or how much year in and year out, every time there's a new budget, how much of that is actually borrowed money?
Mhm.
Because people aren't managing.
Almost $1 billion is borrowed.
$1 billion in our case this year.
Well,
That's
it was
it.
because of your
Well,
case.
COVID,
It was
COVID
because
set
of your
back the
case. It
country
was because of
seriously.
your case
I
2 years
agree.
ago.
But no, Kimar, you're right. Stuart, you're right. But I think coming out of this whole discussion, one thing that has been in my mind, like a red flashing light, has been leadership. If you don't have good leadership, if you don't have a leadership that's transformational, if you don't have leadership that got a bit of charisma in it, if you don't have leadership that is high on communication, if you don't have leadership that's effective, if you don't have leadership that is able to empower people and embrace people, you're gone. Because there are a lot of good people. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of good people. They've got good men and good women out there. But because you're a good man or a good woman, doesn't mean that you become a good leader.
Simon, there's one thing that if I could add the Democratic Party, right, in terms of a democratic process, in terms of selecting leaders. When you're looking for candidates, underneath the Democratic Labour Party, there's a private interview session where the people within the branch or within
The few people in the branch, yes.
people in the Democratic Labour Party do not get the chance to select, or where there's a nomination process to select the candidate that they want. So the few people that in the branch selects, whereas in the Barbados Labour Party process, if people want to run for this particular area, they can run and the people will select who they want as a candidate. Those are the type of democratic process that I would like to see. You understand? Because it gives people a chance to select leaders on both sides. So for example, the Barbados Labour Party part could select between 10 to 15, whoever decides to run, could select their candidate. But on the Democratic Labour Party, you're not given that chance to bring a competent competitor to rival against the Democratic Labour Party. So most of the time, you go in that locker room, pick the Democratic Labour Party member and bring out them and say, hey, who are they? They're Kemar Stewart. He's we pick. But you don't give the people the chance to make those selections. And I think that when you do that, when there's a democratic process from all parties, and they're using political party because of the leadership we are talking about, when the Democratic Labour Party can have a democratic process and the Barbados Labour Party can have a democratic process, and any other party can have a democratic process, then people in this country will be given the opportunity to select a proper leader. Because here's what, selecting your leader does not also mean that that leader has to sit in government, because you can select that leader on the opposition end that could give government the rival it need to line up with the people. If we could use as well, that as an opposition senator, he's giving government the challenge it needs. You understand?
That's a point of nonsense, man. That's a point of nonsense.
You understand? But when when people are trust in front of you, it is you are left. You either selecting between the toilet paper or the crap, and at the end of the day, all two does be crap, because the toilet paper can white crap and that other one is just be crap.
I think Kimar is about leadership. One thing that I'm getting from everything since COVID to now, and to see how government has been managing stuff, is about leadership. And Bajans are not easily fooled.
But give
they
the people
want
the
a
chance.
Leader.
Yes.
People want leadership here.
But they also want good opposition leadership, They just do, as I said to you, the leader could be anywhere. Because here's what, there's a good leader too, A good leader could plan for what he or she wants and carry it that way. It may not be in your favor. I always said they take the last leader of our country who had plans to carry on the whole party. And in my opinion, in his opinion, he probably did an excellent job because he carried them all on.
I have no comment on that.
Leadership is all comes in all form and fashion. The good thing about Barbados is that, yes, you have a leader who is able, and don't get me wrong, leaders make mistakes. So don't think leaders are perfect. But what a good leader do is correct that mistake and go again. I have to run, as I said, over 11 staff in this organization. I'm not always right because, again, the leader has good leadership team. So when I come around and say, man, let me go so the team says free, well, You know,
I ain't
because
gonna
you
work
have a
out.
good team that leads as well, because you've been training them for the years. Just no. And if you come now and say, Simon, you know, I can do this. They said, no, that way we boss want. We boss don't promote that. They said the leadership team know what the leader want. And when you go, the leadership pick up and the leadership goes in the direction of the leader. That is what's missing in government. Leadership.
That's what's missing in political organizations, period.
And that is why you see.
And I can be real honest, you know, I don't really speak up about a lot of things. You know, people talk about the government and the current administration, or is a leader and as a dictatorship. What is being seen right now in Barbados is a weakness in political organization. Because it appears that only one political organization is clear about what they have to do and what they're doing. Everybody else scrambling. All the political organizations now, all the political parties that should be working to put pressure on government, they don't know what they're doing. They're all over the place. They're looking back, they're looking forward, they're looking left, they're looking right. They can't make up their mind. They're waiting until, I don't know, 3 or 4 months before election call to bring candidates to people. Are you for real?
I break dummies.
Are you for real?
Kimar.
So I can't attack. So stepping away from the political organization I was in, I can look and see things now and say, you know what? The issue is not that we have one political organization, the BLP defeat everybody and everybody with the bees. The problem is that within Barbados, all of the rest of political organizations are weak. And it was said on the call-in program. If you take Mia Motley, Prime Minister Mia Motley, and any other political leader of any other political organization, put them to stand shoulder to shoulder, head to head, toe to toe, is there any comparison?
No.
Is there any competition?
You know, Simon, it's not that you can't find.
So the weakness is not in the Prime Minister.
It's not that you can't find good leaders. But if there's no democratic process in finding the leaders, let the people is the leaders. Where you have leaders in this country when it comes to debating, you want to be a leader, but you can't come and debate matters to show the people that you know you are what you're talking about. Is to me mind blowing. When you are
and the reason
America's time,
and the reason why I'm saying so, Kimar, the reason why I'm saying so is this: look at Formula One racing. If Lewis Hamilton is winning Formula One consistently, the problem cannot be Lewis Hamilton.
The problem got to be the other teams.
If Prime Minister Motley win the government again, or 3 more times, or 4 more times, the problem cannot be the Prime Minister.
The problem got to be the leader that want to go.
Jesus, the problem got to be the competition. Competition not ready.
Correct.
That's a good point, because, and then who is being selected for the competition? Question. When you are choosing, when you're looking at leadership, there are people who can manage at a certain level. So they got a certain capacity to lead. And could you have somebody who's a good leader, maybe from some of the other parties, because you're talking about they don't have the organization. So you have somebody who's a good leader, but they could only manage at X level, handle so many amount of people. But then you have some who can go higher and higher. So we saw it even with what was happening with, let's just use the US elections before, when they had so many candidates. And there were some of them who were on the campaign trail. And I could see from the start, I was like, some of these people, you could see, some will not handle it. They could manage at their basic senatorial level, but they couldn't take on the affairs of the nation. They could manage a little constituency, but they can't take on higher and higher. They can't take on city, they can't take on state, much less national. So we have to be careful if you're dealing with people at the same level. So somebody might be trying to position themselves to go for the leader of their party so that they can stand for prime minister, or at the rate you're going president, right? Depending on if they want to be elected. But they can't handle that level. And then you bring them against somebody who, whether that person, whether the prime minister is a really, really good prime minister or not, but if nobody can compete against her at the level that she can lead and manage, because leadership and management are 2 sides of the same coin. You got to work the 2 of them together. So if you can't have somebody who is able to lead and manage at the same level as her, people will consistently choose her. And the only way that will change is if you have the system of government that changes, that says that there are term limits on her.
But I think the Prime Minister alluded to that she's welcoming term limits. But again, we may all, as I said, we may all be comfortable with what we have now. I'm oftentimes worried about my children. What would they have later as leaders? Because I would hate to see a repeat of the previous administration, where you have ministers that are member of parliaments that cared more about themselves and about their pockets rather than they cared about the people of this country. And oftentimes we have to understand what is our leaders' motives. Is it that you want the 10-year for a pension? And I often tell people, my staff shouldn't question whether or not the job is about money, because common sense, money comes at the end of the week. Just like a minister shouldn't be complaining, oh, I need a 10 years because I gain a pension, because that's automatic with the job. The point is what do you plan to do? What's your plan? You know that I'm often
selling the vision.
I'm often confused as the fact that I would go as far as saying I blame sometimes the electorates, the people, because we select people on charisma, how they sound, how they look, and not what they got. They don't come with the Vision 2020 or the Vision 2021. They don't come and outline to constituents what is the plan. Yes, we have manifesto, don't get me wrong, but the manifesto is a general and is always say it's not a promise anything. And you don't have, when they go in the ministry, this is my plan, and they say even if they have it, they may have it down here that nobody can read. Bring it to the people, so the people could judge you, hold you to account of this particular vision or plan. And so sometimes our leadership lacks very much, but we like Simon sound good. He's a funny guy, a handsome guy. And that is what we elect an idiot for, you know, because you don't really, he might even show you your hands yet, just the back of your hand. I know that's good enough for me. Let's elect Simon as no, because the people should be able to refuse him if he does not have a sound plan. Because when you become a candidate, in my opinion, whether you want a D ticket, a B ticket, or E ticket, you have to be able to give the people some plan that when the people think, the people can make a decision.
Yes.
That whether or not you B or D, you are the type of a leader.
What's best? Correct. What is best? Correct.
And
what is best for them? Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, and you can choose people not, well, you were using the looks, you know, so I guess you'd say pretty face, and forgive me, fellas, but it choosing not from the face, not from the personality, but choosing people in the policies. And I think where people struggle sometimes is they forget, look at the policies, look at the policies. What policies is this person presenting?
And stand for.
Forward, exactly. And then you line that up. But then it comes back to how much research are the people willing to do? See, the media always has an agenda. And if we don't pay, and if we just sit there and all we say is we listen to the news, we're listening to the news agenda, we listen to the media's agenda, whether it is mainstream media or social media, we always have an agenda. So you got to listen to the sources to be able to know. Listen to the sources. Listen to what they're saying, not the sound bites, the full speeches. Hear what they
don't analyze it.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, the thing about it. Go ahead.
Just having some technical difficulties. My battery has run out, so if you miss me again.
Yeah, your battery run out there. You fall off the chair when they call a certain name.
But just come out to say good night, just in case you miss me again.
Thank you
to the viewers. I'm gonna try my phone better for next week, I promise. As I say, just in case you miss me, so stay here until it goes again.
No problem. No problem.
We'll be wrapping up shortly.
But no, as you can see, we are passionate. We are passionate about leadership, and not just leadership, but taking Barbados forward and having a clear vision. A clear vision is so important, and leadership really, to me, is the passing on of a vision to those persons who are with you. And the best leaders, world-class leaders, have been able to send a vision, share a vision with the people, and the people run with it. whether it is yes, we can, whether it is I have a dream, whatever the vision is that the leader has, those effective leaders are able to pass it on. And I think that Barbados is at a stage now where people demand more from elected officials in terms of performance. And let me tell you, the next election is going to be interesting here in this country. It's going to be interesting, but I believe that people are demanding, people are expecting more and demanding more from government. Because if you look at what's happening even right now, I'm driving around Barbados, so much activity is going on.
You can't say?
No, I can't say. Just driving my car doing my business.
Just ask it.
Not yet, but not canvassing. But seriously, you drive around Barbados and there's so much that is happening. And I say to myself, why is it that some leaders can push, get things done, and then other leaders, it's like, well, you gotta wait, or well, we're working on this, and it has a lot to do with the political will. It has a lot to do with the drive and the vision that the particular leader has that is able to share not only with cabinet but with everyone.
But Simon, if I may add, right? And when you talk about leadership being trained up behind somebody, if I may be a little bit too molded here, the leader coming up don't have to be trained up behind anybody, because some leaders are born. When you look at people in our everyday society that is out there exemplifying leadership at the level already, rather than in a politician, if we have a
community activist,
correct, community activists, whatever, leaders in businesses, and if we have a democratic process in some of these leaders having the opportunity to serve at the level of politics in this country, Barbados will be a better place, though.
Can I issue a little correction?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not some leaders are born. Everyone is born a leader.
Fair enough.
All right.
But some people have the courage to step into it.
It's upon the mantle.
There you go. And and if you don't do that, and what happens is sometimes we say a person is a born leader because they're charismatic. So we have to be careful.
But what about in a society like ours? Again, it's stifled. I may say Simon is an excellent leader. A lot of people may say he's an excellent leader. But some may say Simon may never be given, or Kimar may never be given the opportunity because you're not of a certain class. You're not of a certain background. One of the things I could appreciate you saying just now in terms of that boldness and that courage is that we in this country as leaders, and all of us in our own rights, are very timid because we're frightened to step out of the norm. We're frightened to challenge certain politicians, and we're frightened to challenge certain status quo. And that's why we have a failed society, because those of us that are the young, they say the young is aggressive in the thing. I don't use the word aggressive, I use the word probably assertive or passionate or bold. That we must get to that place to say straight. If you serve the country well at your 40 years, time to move though. And as I said, if the process is democratic, Kimar Stewart in the DLP should get up and say, listen, I challenging Dr. Chung for this constituency. May the best man or woman win. Simon should be able in the BLP to say, listen, I challenging John Public for this seat. May the best man or woman win. And when the people hear your side and my side, that is how you form or be able to choose the best of the two. But when it is not a democratic process, but an unfair process, or one I like to call an ignorant, foolish process, then people like Kimaru in the DLP can't be given the chance because there's only 2 men in the room selecting a leader though, based on based on political class, based on sometimes money, based on who greased the palm of your hand, based on so much faulty things, and then this body get in and tell yourself that them got the best solution and the best idea. When you don't know this is an incompetent person in here, though, Kimar drop off again. You understand that this person is rather incompetent and cannot run, but because now the person had this or swayed you in whatever, you missed the chance to put in a good leader over an incompetent person. Not even a leader,
someone that wants to make an impression. Someone that wants to make an impression and to get stuff done. And that's the thing. It's all about service. Leadership is about service. It's about being the greatest leader is the biggest servant, though.
Go ahead, Doctor.
And can you not serve outside of a particular party? See, the thing is, a lot of times people get drafted in when you're a young politician or you want to get in. You get drafted in because of what you're doing in the community. So they see you out there and they see you doing the work. They see you serving. Guess what? They want to pull you because they want to benefit you. They want the benefit that you have. They want to tap into that benefit. So your job is to get out there and serve, regardless of,
I agree. I
if
agree.
giving you the title or the role, you serve. So the people so begin to pull for you. That's why sometimes you get people who win as independents. I don't know how, not saying this a lot, but it's because you're already out there and they don't see your service. So your service tied to you wanting to win a seat. They see your service as genuine. So you get out there.
Yeah, and that's a very good. I said that to Simon and I said it to Kimar. That as future leaders in this country, we must be able to remain relevant. And relevant meaning continue what you're doing. I'm not talking about because go do something for the light to shine on you. If you're doing something, well, the light will shine. You understand? And continue doing that so that at the time, at the appointed time, sometimes you can step into your own. There have been persons that have been elected in this country, as you said quite correctly, not oftentimes, but there are persons that will vote for you on your merits. There are persons that would say, listen, I can vote for you because I know you do for the people. In my capacity, I saw a gentleman outside to my office today. He stood up outside and said they wanted to have a conversation with me. No, I'm not a politician. I deal with the homeless. I went to him and I spoke to him about his situation and he explained his situation to me. He said, boss, I ain't here for no money. I ain't here for nothing, but I went to my politician and I asked my politician for guidance and not even that he could have gotten. And I stood up outside for about a half an hour, 45 minutes with him and I made the calls that he wanted to make. He pointed me in the direction he wanted to be pointing. And he said to me straight, use the type of person in this country that should be a leader. Use the type of person in this country should be a politician. And I said, I didn't do it without any political will and all I did was facilitate a gentleman's need outside of those that I serve. But he saw that enough to say, listen, I didn't come for money. I didn't come for food. I ain't homeless. All I wanted was to ask a couple questions and I was able to point this person in the right direction. And there's some people in Master Street, you're the type of politician that we need in this country. Once there's a democratic process for people like myself, as he will point out, to become a politician, I would be. Once there's a process for Simon to become, we would be. But I call for that. Leadership comes with that of being bold. And you must stand. Yes, you will be pelted at. Yes, you will be thrust aside. Yes, you will be damned. But if it is for the greater good of this country, just that you see people in Russia stand up to presidents who they may say are bullies, or they see people stand up to this people or that people. Leadership is one where you take the whipping though. But at the end of the day, if you look to get that to that better rose, you must go through that whole turn. And I think that it is time that us as young people, us as young leaders, take the mantle up, be bold, be courageous, be passionate, because there's some point where we are not as young and bold and courageous when we continue in our life, because other things may take precedence in our life, children, whatever you can't do as you used to do. You know what I'm saying? But if we don't make those steps or we don't create those avenues for ourselves, we will be damn in this country, and they're talking as it relates to Barbados, waiting behind a politician to move though. We'll be damn in this country waiting behind anybody to go home because they ain't going away or because they feel that them is the source and the all to Barbados. And when we have the policy and when we have the ideas and when we could facilitate the needs of the people better, because you know what? In my job, I tell myself I'm probably more influential than a politician. Reason why I can pick up my phone and call just about anybody and they would answer. A politician may be not able to do that. You understand? And there's some difficulty too. And I may be able to come in with my political influence into politics. And I'm not saying politics is the only way you serve, but if you want certain things to be done in this country at the policy level, at the legislation, at the law level, then you have to be in politics, because Simon may go in and he may go in and change culture. because he's of the cultural artist and all of that. I may be of the NGO sector. I may be of the church. I may be of the business. And when I get in, my passion is what I look to seek to go after. Not that you won't try to marry other things. But I think that we need to be able to, in this country, as young people, be bold enough to challenge the status quo in this country. Be bold enough, as I always say, Simon, climb to leadership in this country, even in these political parties, so that when you get in, you make the change that is necessary to allow other people to come. Don't go in and keep the same old rhetoric and you just talk it, but you get in, you can't walk it. Make the changes, become that martyr for them, though that's fine. But you make the change, open the floodgates for other people to come, and you can see things in this country change. If you don't do that, you're going the same thing, the same way, the same out. You just talk till you get in there, but you don't really walk.
But what
Go
you
ahead,
guys,
Doc, if you
what you all are doing is good because you're getting your voice out to the public. So it's not, you could have had this same discussion and decided this was something closed group, and it was just all of us having it, just the four of us. Well, when Kamar's able to get back on, if he is,
Yeah.
just four of us having a nice closed group discussion and everybody beating up their gums, and this is what's going on. And but look what you're doing. You're taking
Yeah.
it.
Be grateful, man.
It is
It's
this,
true.
whether
Because
it's
it started as a talk. It started as a group, right, Kimar? It started
Yeah,
as
yeah.
just a private group, the fellas talking, but then we decided to get counsel and should I say get guest speakers like yourself to join us to give input and to make what we're saying make sense. You know?
Mhm. And that is important, and I always say our voice is our most strongest and most powerful tool. And thank God we don't have sponsors, even so we're not.
Yeah, we wanted sponsors, but it's still glad we ain't got it.
We're not sugarcoat into a side where we have to speak the
True.
language of anyone. And I'm not saying you don't be respectful or you don't come on to the topics, but these topics are very important. And this is why the name is very powerful, DeBrief. You're debriefing topics,
Yeah.
you're debriefing things, you're bringing things into perspective. No matter what, some may think the show is a D, and all of us here are from different political parties, some from none. And that gives it balance, because when you may think, oh, it's a DLP show, it's a BLP show, it's not. It's a show with people from different political backgrounds, some from non-political background, and we all have a contribution, and it can show
An opinion.
both opinion from both sides, a respected opinion from both sides of the coins. So that is what the kind of discussion we need as young people. This is where we see our country. This is our problem. This is where we want the intervention in, and as it relates to our country. And once we can get those things, our country could be at a better place. And once we can hear people like us saying things and coming off, yes, we may not always, the viewers may not always agree with us, and that is fine. But at the point is that you hear and you're able to critique myself, Simon. And if you get up tomorrow and say, hey, I want to be that future leader, you can say, listen, I heard him, I saw him, I heard their work, I see their work. I think that they're good leaders, or no, I think that they just stay in a little lane. And those are these are when that you're put on that pedestal to be looked at as if you are somebody that the country should gravitate to as a leader, and your work proves itself constantly. Yeah.
Well said, Kimberly.
Doctor, we give you the last word to wrap up with us on. It was a pleasure having you, but if you have any final words on Keenly, all these persons are on still. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for keeping on. Follow the page, please. Only want us to follow the page. That is key to knowing when we are on. Follow and like us. And I also posted Keenly College on there just in case anybody has any desire to become a political leader or a leader, and they have some very good courses on there. Doc, the word over to you before we close off.
Just a couple things. Leadership is always going to be about influence and impact. It's going to always, good leadership is going to involve integrity. It's involved in educating people, because that's what you guys are doing now. If people do not know, how can they make informed decisions? And that's one of the things that we need to see more of. And another thing, politics is a battle for the soul. And what is the soul? The will and the emotions. When do we talk about the things, when we hear politics, don't we say the will of the people, the mind of the people, the will of the people, the emotions of the people? And you have the ability to choose to either empower the soul of the nation or to disempower it. And I'm glad that you have this show on, because it's giving people the chance to have the soul of the nation empowered. And so when you are, don't worry about your age. You've got an impact to make. Don't worry about the doors that seem to be closed. You have an impact to make. Start using your voice and start serving. Serve wherever you can. Start
Yeah.
getting in networks, start getting involved with community groups, and start serving. You can serve your way up the ladder to the point where they cannot but notice you because you are everywhere. And you find that clear vision. It's come out a lot. Find your clear vision. Define the vision for your life and the vision you want to see for your country and the role you will play in that vision. Because that vision is going to be what people buy into. And once you know that vision, then you communicate that vision. You've got to be clear on that because people want to know that they have the future of their nation in safe hands. And that's what you guys are about, creating that safe future for your nation. So I just want to say again, congratulations on what you're doing, and just encourage anyone who is listening. If you've got anything that looks like is a little politics bone in your body, a little thing that's creeping up and saying, and you felt convicted in some way by what the things that we talked about, and you said, well, I'm not sure what it is that how I'm going to start, that's okay. The point is, if you have that desire to serve and probably to go into the politics route, you can always email us. And I think that the link is there, but we are kenleycollege.com, KENLEY college.com. I look forward to hearing many great things from these future politicians, and that is politicians said in a good way.
Simon?
Wow, I'm encouraged tonight. I really am encouraged tonight. It's been a good program, and I hope that for those of you who've been watching, listening, and so on, that we really understand what it is that we want for Barbados with regards to moving forward, even as we go into becoming a republic. The key word is leadership and accountability. Any person or those put in charge to lead Barbados have to be accountable to the people of Barbados. And that's very important. And for me, accountability and leadership, that's the things that are really coming out in this evening's program. And I think that even as we flesh out what it is, the type of republic that we want for Barbados and how Barbados is going to be 5, 10, 15 years from now, it is important that in all things that the freedoms of the people continue and that we have a clear national identity. You know, in America, they talk about the American way, we can do things the American way. We must have a culture where, let me see, we can do things the Bajan way, that it speaks to excellence. You know, that we say, nobody can do it. I can make this a Bajan thing, make this the Bajan way. That it reflects all of the good things about being Barbadian. We are helpful people. We are courteous people. We are hardworking people. We are loving people. So when we talk about the Bajan way and the Republic and how we want to take Barbados forward, let's focus on those things as well.
Yep, and thank you very much, Dr. Chung.
Dr. Chung, thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure to have persons like you. I hope we didn't hog your show too much. You know, we can get passionate.
Yeah, passionate.
Oh, no.
I was unusually passionate tonight, right, Kimara? I don't be this passionate, really.
Well, you know, it's getting down to that political season, and we must season the whole meat and have it ready, and you know, let people know we are ready to take the platform if we are called on, you know, to be the future leaders in this country at the highest office, and we are leaders in our own rights. But at the highest office, it is where we want to serve because we do know policy needs to change. We do know legislation needs to change. We know that we need to really get into the 21st century. And how can you do that? Is only at that certain seat. As I always say, you can only lead for so far, for so long. But if you go up the ladder, you lead at another level and stuff like that. And I think we've all started in the mail room, and now we need to be at the table, you know, where we can eat and drink with the big boys, you know, and I say that respectfully. In that way. Now, you know, thank you, Dr. Chung. We really enjoyed it. We really hope we can have you back as well. I hope persons
thank you so much for
the chat. That persons can sign up. I hope we can stay in touch as well because we've learned a lot. We had free sessions tonight from you. So we hope we can really sign on, get the help that we need, and for those who are interested. And you know, funny enough, one of the things that is really lacking in Barbados is a political school, is a political academy. There's none. And I find that a lot of the former politicians that were the brains of the operation of bringing Barbados to where we are dying with those knowledge, that there's no book
Yeah.
on politics, that, there's no book on informative politics, or how to win an election, or how to win a constituency. There's these things that are lacking in Barbados, that we need to have some, Ministry of Information, when we have the Ministry of Information, and PR, whatever.
Yes.
But the Ministry of Information should have a part where they're going into the homes of these elder politicians and just taking those things in books and creating archives and creating the history of Barbados, the political, and writing books, and giving these guys royalties from these things. But we are saying that, and that's why I said brains like these need to be in places like the parliaments and stuff like that. But it's going to be made possible. Trust me, it's going to be made possible. But we thank you, Dr. Chung, for taking the time out to speak with us, to enlighten us, to guide us, and to really bring things into the perspective. I just want to say thanks to Troy Weeks, who's saying he has an enjoyable show. He said it was very informative. Rhonda Paris is saying she loved the show, she loved the topic. Thank you, Richard and Kelman, and we had Grenville Phillips, who was I don't know if to say he's a past politician, because it would be past politician, but he can be this a past politician because he gave it up. No. And we have people like Shauna Rollins and those that are very faithful to Olivia Seeley, Wayne Hoy, who have been keeping the conversation hot and going. Thank you very much. This was such a program, Kimar. We could show as usual. So people are really loving it. Thank you for bringing that perspective. It's because of our guests that people could really say it's a lovely show as well. So thank you, Dr. Chung. Please stay in touch with us. Stay free. This COVID situation. We always ask persons to follow us, share with us, but keep with the COVID laws, keep with the protocols, keep safe. God bless. Until we see each other again. I'm going to say good night to the persons on the